This is why the world's largest island has never connected a single town by road. Greenland has 56,000 people spread across an area 3 times the size of Texas, and until 2025, 0 roads existed between any of its cities. Every single journey between towns required a plane, a helicopter, a boat, or a dog sled. But here's the thing, this isn't a failure of development. It's actually a smart response to some of the most extreme geography on Earth. What makes Greenland so impossible to build on, and why did it take until 2025 for even a basic dirt track to connect 2 towns? The answer involves 1,000-meter deep fjords, an ice sheet 3 kilometers thick, and a colonial decision that sealed the island's fate. Greenland's ice sheet covers 1.7 million square kilometers, and that single fact explains almost everything about why this island has no roads. 80% of the entire country sits buried under ice that averages 1.67 kilometers thick. Some areas go even deeper, with ice reaching past 3 kilometers down into the earth. All that frozen water holds enough volume to raise global sea levels by 7.4 meters if it ever melted completely. Every single one of Greenland's 56,000 residents lives in a narrow ring of ice-free coastal land. The capital Nuuk holds just over 20,000 people, which works out to 35% of the entire population living in one city. Sisimiut comes in second, with under 6,000 residents, and most other settlements number in the hundreds. These communities aren't just small, they're separated by terrain that would make any road engineer quit on the spot. The coastline stretches 39,000 kilometers, roughly the same distance as Earth's circumference at the equator, and that coast gets sliced apart by over 150 named fjords. These aren't gentle bays you can build a bridge across. Scoresby Sound, the world's largest fjord system, cuts 350 kilometers inland with depths reaching 1,450 meters. The Nuuk Fjord alone extends 190 kilometers with water deeper than 600 meters. What that means for road building is pretty simple. Any highway connecting Greenland's major cities would need to cross multiple fjords of this scale, and you'd need bridges that would rank among the longest and most expensive ever built. That's before you even think about what lies beneath the surface. Permafrost covers Greenland's ice-free zones, and in the north, frozen ground extends 500 meters deep. Even the relatively mild southwest has unstable permafrost that shifts and cracks. A 2024 study found that 39% of existing roads in Ilulissat sit on what researchers call highly hazardous terrain, ground that sinks and buckles as it thaws. Separate research projects that 70% of all Arctic infrastructure will face serious damage from permafrost breakdown by mid-century. And this isn't some future problem, it's happening right now. When workers built a 6.2-kilometer road in Qaqortoq, they used 35 tons of explosives to blast 70,000 cubic meters of rock. No suitable building materials existed locally, so the terrain itself had to be destroyed and rebuilt from scratch. Here's another problem most people don't think about. Concrete needs temperatures above 10 degrees Celsius for 48 hours to cure properly, and much of Greenland rarely hits those conditions even in summer. Asphalt poured in cold weather ends up with structural problems that can't be fixed. These aren't challenges you can engineer around. Physics and climate set hard limits. The cost numbers tell this story clearly. Canada built a highway from Inuvik to Tuktoyaktuk, and that's the closest comparison to any road Greenland might build. 300 million Canadian dollars bought. 138 kilometers of road, which works out to roughly $2.2 million per kilometer. Annual maintenance runs another $1.5 million, and the road still has problems. For Greenland, estimates put a basic gravel road from Sisimiut to Kangerlussuaq at 500 million Danish kroner, about 67 million euros. That buys you a dirt track passable only by off-road vehicles, covering the shortest gap between any 2 towns at 130 kilometers. Now multiply those costs across the real distances involved. Nuuk to Sisimiut runs 320 kilometers in a straight line. Nuuk to Ilulissat stretches 562 kilometers. Actual road distances would run much longer, winding around fjords, climbing over mountains and crossing glacial terrain. For a population smaller than most suburbs, the economics simply collapse. Geography wasn't the only force that shaped Greenland's roadless reality. History locked in this pattern centuries ago. Danish missionary Hans Egede arrived in 1721 and found Inuit communities perfectly adapted to Arctic life. They traveled by kayak, umiak, and dog sled, and the colonial government decided not to change that. The 1782 instruction went further and explicitly banned attempts to urbanize the Inuit or alter how they lived. That policy sealed Greenland off from outside influence until 1950. The Danish Royal Greenland Trade Department ran everything as a monopoly, and infrastructure investment went into trading posts rather than roads or transportation networks. What might surprise you is what happened during World War II. American military bases came to Greenland, and in the 1960s, the United States Air Force proposed building a road from Kangerlussuaq to Sisimiut. The Danish government said no. Greenland gained home rule in 1979 and expanded its autonomy in 2009, but the basic economics hadn't budged. National politicians wouldn't support road construction for decades. As one local mayor put it, the political will simply wasn't there. That brings up the obvious question: how do Greenlanders actually travel between cities? They fly constantly. Air Greenland runs 28 aircraft, including an Airbus A330neo for transatlantic routes, 8-8-200 turboprops for domestic flights, and 18 helicopters serving remote settlements. The network reaches every inhabited community through 13 civilian airports and 46 heliports scattered across the country. The government spends 156 million Danish kroner each year subsidizing these flights, covering 80 to 90% of operating costs for helicopter services to small settlements. Domestic tickets still run expensive, with a round trip from Nuuk to Sisimiut costing around $500, but for most routes it's the only option. That works year-round. Sea Transport handles the cargo. Royal Arctic Line owns exclusive rights to all freight shipping in Greenland, running 10 ice-class vessels that visit 13 terminal harbors. Remote settlements see a ship just 1 to 3 times per year, which means planning ahead for everything you need. The passenger ferry Sarfak Itak runs along the west coast from April through January, and the trip from Nuuk to Ilulissat takes about 2 days by sea. A flight covers the same distance in roughly an hour, which explains why most people choose the plane despite the cost. Dog sleds still work for transportation in northern and eastern Greenland, though the sled dog population has dropped by more than 50% over the past 25 years as warming temperatures shorten the usable season. Over 2,000 registered snowmobiles now handle much of the winter travel that dogs once did. 2025 brought Greenland's first real milestone in ground: transportation. The Arctic Circle track opened between Sisimiut and Kangerlussuaq, and for the first time in history, 2 Greenlandic towns had a land connection. The 130-kilometer route took 4 years to build, from 2021 to 2025, at a cost of 25 million Danish kroner. Only ATVs, UTVs, and specialized off-road vehicles can handle the terrain. One municipal leader had pushed for this road since 2017, putting up local funds when national politicians wouldn't commit. He called it the road to freedom, and the idea behind that phrase is simple. Freedom means being able to travel and trade without depending entirely on planes and boats. A 2021 study found that even if costs ran 3 times higher than estimated, the economic benefits would still justify building this road. But Greenland's biggest transportation investment isn't going into roads, it's going into airports. The government committed 3.7 billion Danish kroner to airport construction, roughly $560 million, which equals about 40% of Greenland's entire annual economy. The new Nuuk International Airport opened on November 28, 2024, with a 2,200-meter runway that allows direct flights to Copenhagen in under 5 hours. United Airlines will start flying twice weekly from Newark to Nuuk in June of 2025. New airports Ilulissat and Ilulissat and Qaqortoq should open in 2026. Denmark pledged another 1.6 billion kroner for infrastructure spending through 2029. And that money will fund a runway at Ittoqqortoormiit plus a deep water port at Qaqortoq. One airline executive explained the logic behind all this airport investment. Sea ice conditions have grown unpredictable. Decades ago, trucks could sometimes drive on frozen water in certain areas, but now even dog sleds can't always make it across. Air travel has become the only reliable option. Climate change creates strange contradictions for Greenland's future. Warming temperatures destabilize permafrost, making any new road construction riskier and more expensive to maintain over time. The same warming might open new possibilities, but nobody knows which way the balance will tip. Greenland's roadless reality makes sense when you step back and look at the full picture. This isn't a problem waiting for someone to solve it. This is an adaptation to geography so extreme that normal infrastructure simply doesn't function. 56,000 people spread across an area larger than Western Europe. Fjords deeper than skyscrapers are tall. Permafrost growing less stable every year. An ice sheet covering 80% of the land. The world's largest island chose helicopters over highways, and given everything working against them, that might be the smartest transportation decision any country has ever made.